Welcome to Holly's Pandorium, featuring your host, psychic medium Holly Jordan.
Hi there. We're back. This is Holly from Holly's Pandorium, and I have my friend Jay with us again. Ta-da!
Hello.
Here's Jay. Jay's got a really
Hello.
cool story today to tell us. What are you going to tell us about today, Jay?
Well, I am going to tell you about one of my. Do you have a bucket list?
I do.
Okay.
I do.
Well, this was, I kind of have a big and a little bucket list.
Okay.
The big bucket list is like, these are things I want to do before I die.
Okay.
And then I have like a small bucket list of things that are easily achievable, that are things I just need to put on my list and make time to do.
Gotcha.
And so this is one of my minor bucket list type things I want to talk to you about.
Okay.
And I thought it was really cool, and I wanted to share it with your audience.
Nice.
And I'm going to, like most of my stories, I'm going to back up the truck a little bit and give you a little color.
Okay.
And set the stage for what I'm going to talk about. So a couple of years ago, I won some money on the Super Bowl, and $1,000, $1,500 or something like that. And I decided that I was going to earmark that money to go buy a new mattress. My mattress was like 120 whatever years old and lumpy as hell, and
right, it was due.
It was, way overdue for being replaced. So I had earmarked that this money was going to go to buying a new mattress, and I did all my homework and all that kind of stuff. And
right.
Then I found this place that was over in the Bay Area. I live in Tracy, which is the Central Valley of California. But in the Bay Area, in Oakland area, I had found that there was a secondary mattress shop, that were selling mattresses at, like half or a third off the retail price, because what they do is if, brand X sends you a mattress and you decide that you don't want to keep it, well, they're not going to pay to have it shipped all the way back to the factory.
Right.
So they have a secondary company who comes and picks up your mattress, and then they try to sell it on a secondary market, through Craigslist or however they advertise. So anyway, so I found this company, and I thought, okay, well, rather than buy from the factory, I'll buy from the secondary company. These are all brand new mattresses.
Right.
And so that's what I did. They gave me an address, and it was down in, like the Oakland, San Leandro area. And so I went down there, and the area was like an industrial area, and I'm following my little map, and I come to a T, and I can go left or I can go right. And so I come to the stop sign, and I know that the place I'm looking for is to the left, but I look to the right to see if the traffic is, there's no traffic and it's, safe for me to turn.
Right.
And holy crap, there's an aircraft carrier right there.
Oh my goodness.
I mean, a World War II aircraft carrier at the end of the road. And I was like, oh my Lord, what the hell?
Yeah,
I gotta
that's
go
massive.
look at this.
Right.
Yeah, it was a dock. There was,
right.
And,
yeah.
Yeah, and I drove down there, and lo and behold, it was the World War II USS Hornet aircraft carrier, which was moored there and has been turned into a museum, and tour. You can do tours and stuff.
Nice.
And I was like, well, holy cow! I'm going to have to put this on my small bucket list.
Right. Yeah.
Make sure that I come and tour this this big gray lady, because I'm kind of a history nut, and I'm kind of a World War II nut. I've got family members that served in the services in every war ever. and so I put it on that list. I'm going to have to come back here and do that.
Right.
So, again, you may or may not know, I'm planning on moving to the Washington State area next year.
Right.
So it kind of became something that I had to kind of work on and put it at the top of that small bucket list, because I only got a year before I'm moving. So I better step it up and make sure that I get that done before I leave.
Right.
So that's what we did. Okay, so that brings us up to date. So I come to find out that August 26th of this year, 2023, the old gray lady, the USS Hornet, was hosting what they called a Paracon. So this was a paranormal convention
Nice.
that was going to be taking place aboard the ship, and they had several levels of participation. They had one level to where you could come and attend a conference with, dignitaries within the paranormal theater of work,
Right.
uh, or you could, like I did, and pay for the whole kit and caboodle to where you attend the conference, they feed you dinner, and then you go on a ghost hunt throughout the ship for the rest of the evening. You bunk there on the ship overnight,
Mm-hmm.
and then they feed you again breakfast in the morning, and then you have free range of the boat for another hour or two before you can leave for the day. So it's kind of like almost a 24-hour gig,
Right.
and it was what I consider inexpensive. I think it was like $125 for the whole package, uh, from stem to stern. Let's call it, no pun intended. Uh, but if I had stayed overnight in the city, it would have been $125 for a hotel room.
Oh,
So
easily.
not
Sure.
counting meals or whatever. So I got
Right.
I got two meals, which probably be $100 a meal over there, in the city or whatever, and free lodging, basically a free ghost hunt. I have never been on a ghost hunt before, so I've seen plenty of them on TV,
Right.
and so I was going to be not participating necessarily in the ghost
Mm-hmm.
hunts, but I was
Right.
going to be there as I called it an interested observer.
Gotcha.
Um,
Gotcha.
I'm kind of, for the audience who doesn't know me or heard me before, I'm very pragmatic. I'm kind of an ex-cop, evidence-based type thing. I'm kind of a show me type guy. I'll believe it when I see it,
Right.
type attitudes. And so I just wanted to see what goes on during an actual ghost hunt with professional ghost hunters,
Right.
or hobby ghost hunters, or wherever these people were coming from, Montana and Colorado,
All
because
over.
this was one of those things that had been on their bucket list,
Gotcha.
that they were making special trips to come out here and do a ghost hunt on the Hornet. So anyway, so this was August 26th,
Mm-hmm.
and the conference had some people that seasoned ghost hunters or paranormal folks, names that they might recognize, and I'll just read off a couple of them. The big one is Lloyd Auerbach. He's written 20 books on the paranormal. He's been around since the 60s. He's pretty high up there, name echelon, as far as ghost hunting and stuff. Daryl Marston, he's one of these TV ghost hunters uh, type guys. Sean Austin, he's another one of these TV guys. He's been on TV, unexplained channels, Demon Files, I guess. Was one of the shows, the series that he was on, and he had a very interesting story. There was a Archbishop Kenneth Torres, who is a specialist, exorcist, expert in demonology, and how demonology is different from uh, possession.
Yes.
Yes, and so he was, giving a talk on the differences between possession and demonology, which are completely two separate camps.
Right.
Demonology is way worse,
Yeah.
and possession has a lot to do with some mental issues and that type of thing, which tend to bring it on, which I found fascinating. And so anyway, those were the main characters for the conference. So the conference went on for about 3 hours or so, and we had questions and answers period after these people had their talks and gave their spiels, and they sold books and whatnot that they would graciously autograph. There was some paranormals and some mediums there
Right.
that were giving readings and things. Most of them for free or for a donation,
Right.
but
Nice.
they weren't charging necessarily. Uh, so you had that stuff going on. Also, you had free roam of the boat, ship. Some people get tied up about that, but so you had free roam of the ship where you could wander on your own before the conference for a couple hours, and then afterwards we had a nice Mexican dinner. Beans, rice, and burritos type thing. And then we broke up into several groups of about 5 or 6 people. Those that were staying on the ship, those that were there for the conference, then they departed when we went to dinner. And then we had 2 guides per group, and they would start in different sections of the ship.
Okay.
And so they had walkie talkies or whatever, and you'd get an hour at whatever section of the ship that you were there, and then they would say, okay, everybody rotate, and so all these different groups would rotate. It was very interesting to see the equipment that some of these people brought on. Some people brought on these multi-spectrum cameras,
Right.
really fancy rigs.
Right.
Some people were using apps on their phone. Some people had K2 meters. Some people had the ghost box, the squawk box
Oh
things.
yeah, yeah.
Some people were just mediums and stuff that were walking around and telling what they feel and that type of thing. So it was quite interesting seeing all these different areas and different equipment that people were using. Um, I did not personally experience anything or see anything out of the ordinary. When we were up in the admiral's cabin, which
Okay.
was a special cabin for dignitary admirals when they were aboard. So it's not
Okay.
a captain's cabin,
Right.
but this is the admiral's cabin. I mean, it's got a full size king size bed in there. It's like a regular motel room,
Gotcha.
you know, with a big bed in a real bathroom and a real closet.
Right.
And when we were in there, and then it has like a conference room attached to it.
Oh wow.
So you
Very
come out of the
fancy.
admiral's cabin into a like conference room. So that would
Sure.
be where he would have his meetings with staff or whatever. But it was right off of the bedroom, and so we were there in the conference room and had some pretty significant K2 strikes and that sort of thing. And we were talking about people were saying that not necessarily if you talk to the ghost or you try to get a reaction from the ghost, but if you just talk about situations that the ghosts would know of, then that can create activity.
Correct.
So, basically, I was just telling stories, being the storyteller that I am,
Right.
and having a long lineage of, naval personnel in my family.
Right.
I would tell stories, about experiences of my family and my
Sure.
family lineage like that, and that seemed to activate the K2 meter. It was kind of going off and
Good.
making noise and stuff like that. Oh, but only in the admiral's area, which
Interesting.
I understand from our guides that was an active area. They tried to take us to known active areas
Gotcha.
of the things that have been reported before.
And so let me just
Um,
stop you really quick, Jay. So this you'd never been on a ghost hunt before of any kind, correct?
no,
Okay.
that is correct.
Okay. So part of what was going on was instruction, it sounded like initially with the conference part, and the rest was just active ghost hunting. Is that a good way to describe
Yeah,
it?
correct. It was like classroom for the first part with
Gotcha.
these with these guest hosts, where they would it was a teaching situation
Oh, okay.
where
Okay.
they would like uh, the archbishop, he was giving instructions and teaching
Right.
us
Right.
the difference between possession and demonology.
Okay.
A demon possession versus a regular possession.
Right.
And so it was instructional. Sean Austin, he was telling his experiences when he was on the 28-day thing that he had done back in Massachusetts, where
Okay.
he was in the house for 28 days, and that actually met one of the spirits in the house, and uh, he created a song for it.
Oh, wow.
Uh, that you can go onto YouTube and go look it up. Look up Sean Austin
Okay.
and his little paranormal ghost song that was inspired by this ghost that he was sequestered with for 28 days in the
Wow.
house. Um, and so he, gave his experiences and stuff like that. So yeah, it was kind of a classroom situation for the conference, but then after dinner, it was active ghost hunt.
Nice. And
So
that now that I think we talked about this earlier about they didn't actually shut it down throughout the night. They let you guys continue all night long if you wanted.
exactly,
Okay, that's
exactly.
amazing. Because like I was honestly, any ghost hunting that I've done, you bring your own food, you tippy toe around. It's very different. I mean, this they made this sound extremely user friendly. So I feel like
It
this
was.
is ideal for a first time. Number one, to get instruction before you even start. That's incredible. And then to get to have a nice meal and relax and be around a whole bunch of people with different gear, that would be amazing. That would be really fun.
Yeah, and this was a very safe environment.
Right.
Um, this was, there has never been any known bad experiences on this ship.
Nice.
All the ghosts, kind of Casper the Friendly Ghost ship.
Nice.
All the ghosts that have been known on that ship, or have been non-malevolent.
Right.
So you didn't have to worry about salting your car in the parking lot, being
Gotcha.
afraid to drag something home.
Gotcha.
Um, they were saying that there was some reoccurring ghosts that like to hang out there
Right.
that are from other areas
Right.
because they know that there are people there. Like you said previously on another podcast that you had done, that a lot of them just want their story out, and they
That's
know
right.
that if they come there, that they're going to have people that can possibly help. Like they were saying that there was one guy that he's buried over on Mare Island or Treasure Island or
Right.
somewhere, who happened to he was murdered. He doesn't know how. All he knows is he woke up dead,
Right.
and he hangs out there because he's trying to get somebody to get together an investigation to find out what
What
happened
happened?
to him.
Yeah.
Apparently his body is still there, undiscovered,
Interesting.
and he wants to tell people, "Hey, this is where I'm buried. Come find me. Come dig me up and
Yeah.
figure out
Yeah.
who done it."
Yeah.
And so that apparently that's like one of the ghosts. Another one of the ghosts that happens to be a little girl. Well, obviously there's no little girls running around on World War II
Not normally. Yeah.
aircraft carriers
Right.
anytime in history.
Right.
Some speculated that maybe she was part of the Vietnamese evacuation, but
Right. Could be.
that was not part of it.
Oh no.
She's just somebody who I guess has died and been buried somewhere else, and she likes
Uh,
to hang out there because she knows that there's people that she can interact with.
right. Right.
And so apparently that's just some place that she likes to come so she can talk to people or whatever.
Yeah.
Um,
So did anybody in
another,
your group find any evidence? Was there anything that was recorded? Any voices or images or anything?
in my group, not that I'm aware of. I
Okay.
mean, we never had a period at the end where people would share. A lot of people said,
Oh.
"Well, I'm going to go home and go through it and find out,"
Yeah.
kind
Sure.
of thing. But there was some people, when we met in the morning for breakfast and stuff, that were from other groups had claimed that they had captured stuff.
Oh,
But in my group personally, what I experienced, no. I didn't have the guy with the high tech spectrum
right,
camera,
right, right.
type thing. In my particular group, but yes, there were some people that did claim to catch some good stuff and some EVPs, but
Nice.
I didn't personally witness what they had or whatever. But
Gotcha.
and yeah, so real nice people. Um, but most of the people were our age,
Right.
in their 50s and 60s. Uh, there wasn't a lot of young people. There was a young medium there who I found very interesting. I don't know that I have his name here. Uh, Ryan Frerkings. He was really interesting. He's a kid in his 20s, maybe late 20s, who is a medium, and he's having difficulties with his mediumship. He's kind of learning to turn it on, turn it off,
Right.
uh, but he doesn't have a lot of people to talk to
Right.
in his own age group.
Right.
Most of the people that he knows that are mediums or whatever are our age,
Right.
who have
Yeah.
no problem, talking about this stuff. But apparently, in the 20s, he doesn't have a lot of people his own age to bounce things off of.
Right.
And so he was finding that difficult. So I kind of had a little soft spot in there for the kid.
Sure. Sure.
Um, and he was having a hard time on the ship. He was kind of on sensory overload,
Oh, sure.
and he was there was a lot of electromagnetic kind of background
Sure.
on the ship because you're normally in your house. Runs on 220 volts for
Right.
most of your high voltage. On the Hornet, everything's run at 440.
Ah.
So there's a lot of
Oh boy.
fear cage, electrical,
That would be a lot to
electromagnetic
deal with. Yeah.
fields and stuff going on.
Right.
As you walk through the boat, you can hear these transformers just humming away.
Mm.
And they're
I
loud.
bet.
Just and so yeah. So he was having some areas he was having kind of a little bit of an overload. So I really kind of felt for the kid. But yeah, this is probably, if you've never been on a ghost hunt, if this is something that you would like to do, this is, probably a real good entry point for you. I will say, uh, if you do, make sure that you are able to climb stairs.
Yeah.
Um, that your that your knees and backs will allow you to climb stairs. Now, this is something I'm just going to pass on. Kind of something that you don't really, excuse me, pardon me, think about. You ever watch these old black and white, uh, war movies or
Oh
whatever?
yeah.
They got
Oh
Navy
yeah.
ships and everybody goes to general alarm and they got all these, skinny kids, with their hands sliding down the rails. They're not using the
Yes.
stairs at all. They're
Yeah.
just zipping down the handrails.
Right.
Well, once you have boots on the ground, you figure out why.
Yeah.
And here, I'm going to let it out of the bag.
Okay. Let's hear it.
The stairs that you normally climb in your day-to-day life, at your,
Right.
businesses, your house, or whatever, are usually on a nice 45-degree angle. It's
Sure.
nice and easy. The treads are, 10, 11 inches wide,
Right.
so your whole foot can go on them. On the ship, no. The stairs are probably like that.
Oh, good Lord.
Yeah, it's like
More like a
65
ladder.
degree. It's
Yikes.
more like a ladder,
Mm.
exactly. And the treads are much like a ladder as well, where you get about half of the normal tread, so you can only
Yikes.
get your ball of your feet on as you're climbing the stairs, right?
Yikes.
So you don't put your heel down; you just climb with your toes and the ball
Right.
of your foot as you climb the
Ugh.
stairs. So when you're going down, you only have half that tread at 60 degrees, and so only your heel is on the tread as you go down.
Wow.
And so that's why during the general alarms, they don't want people falling on their face 60 degrees
Right.
from,
Yeah.
the story above. So therefore they would just slide down the rails.
I think I'd fall on
So,
my butt.
well, I certainly would now, but,
Oh, yeah, no,
if
I
I
don't
was
think
an
I could do
18 year
that.
old, if I was an 18-year-old kid, yeah, man, I
It'd
probably
be a
would have
different
been able to do the
story.
same thing
Yeah.
too. Right.
Yeah, at my age, I'd be falling on my butt. I would be funny as hell, but I'd definitely be falling on my butt. For sure.
Yeah, so that was the only thing that I would like to pass on. If you're considering this, just make
Right.
sure that you can hike a couple of miles, because
Right.
you will, your little pedometer on your, smartphone or whatever that you're using,
Mm-hmm.
you'll definitely log a few miles over the
Sure.
night, going back and forth and up and down,
Right.
throughout the ship.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Once we decided to turn in, once the ghost hunt was over, the guided ghost hunt, you were broken up into three different sections. You had your choice. You could either go all guys, all girls,
Mm-hmm.
or co-ed bunking situation. So whatever you were most comfortable with.
Right. That's good.
Um, yeah, so if you didn't care if there was a sleeping bear next to you and you're a
Right.
woman,
Right.
that makes you comfortable because that's what you got at home.
Right.
You could sleep with co-eds. If you didn't want to have anything to do with those nasty men and you wanted a women's only, you could have your section over there.
Gotcha.
And yeah, and then the guys have their little guy only area where they could burp and fart all they want, uh, and not
Okay.
upset anybody.
Right.
So it was kind of cool that you had your three different separate sleeping quarters.
That's very considerate of
And
them.
yeah, I thought that was kind of nice. And then they were all within pretty close distance to a small cafeteria area, a little mess area there where they had coffee. They had one of those Keurig type coffee machines or whatever. So if
Nice.
you wanted to have a cup of coffee and sit down and do whatever, you could do that. The only problem I had was is that the closest bathroom, was on the floor above.
Oh dear.
So if you needed to go to the bathroom in the wee hours of the morning to go wee,
Right.
you had to, go up to the next floor to the not the flight deck but the hangar deck.
Oh
You
wow.
had to go up to the hangar deck to go to the bathroom. Not a big deal. There wasn't anyone. There wasn't anyone close. Wasn't a head close.
Right.
To the bunk area. Um, at least that was not off limits of part of the boat there.
Sure. Sure.
So
So there were
um,
some parts of the boat that you weren't able to access. It wasn't totally open.
it was not completely open. There were some areas. It is a working museum.
Right.
They do restorations on like the airplanes on the hangar deck and
Oh
stuff.
really? Oh wow.
Yeah, some of the Hornet was involved in the Apollo and the Gemini missions, I guess, picking
I
up the
didn't know
capsules
that.
when they come back.
Wow.
And the hangar deck is full of airplanes. That
Nice.
during that period, the helicopters. They have one of the trailers that the astronauts used to, where they were sequestered when they came back to make
Oh
sure they didn't have
right.
any goodies on
Oh
them.
my goodness.
Big airstream custom made
Wow.
for the astronauts. They have on display. They have a couple of capsules. I think one's from the Apollo and one's from the Gemini
Okay.
projects. And there are some maintenance areas, which of course are off limits. The engine room was off limits just because of the hazards that are
Right.
involved in those
Well, that makes
spaces.
sense. I get that.
Right. So there were some areas that we weren't taken to, and that are off limits to civilians, we'll call them.
Right.
Interestingly enough, that they do have a number of maintenance people who actually live on the ship.
Oh
They
really?
have their own little quarters area, rooms that they have
Wow.
where they're there, 24/7.
Huh.
That they're actually, on board maintenance workers.
Wow.
Uh, so, and of course, we didn't go into their areas because those are their own personal private areas.
Right.
So found that quite interesting that they do have people that
I that
live
surprises
and work
me.
on the boat.
That surprises me. It does sound like it was a good first experience, though, to kind of put your toe in the water, so to speak, for doing ghost investigations. So, do you think after watching the groups, Jay, that you would ever want to do something like that again? A regular
I
ghost
don't
hunt?
know. I don't know that I would go on a ghost hunt per se. I mean, it's not an area of my interest. But I'm a person who likes to experience things, kind of from behind the curtain.
Gotcha.
I see these ghost hunts and stuff on TV, and they call them, reality TV or
Right.
whatever.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I don't know how much reality is in reality TV. Why do they need producers if it's, a live event?
Right.
Um, and I talk with other people that have been involved with other shows that are supposedly, live TV
Right.
and that are not.
Right.
A lot of stuff is staged, and
Right.
they've kind of let the cat out of the bag.
Right.
But I just wanted to go on the ghost hunt. Like I say, as an interested observer,
Sure.
to see how these things actually go about, what happens. Do we actually capture something? And that would be really cool and
Yeah.
experience it. I don't know that it was something for me personally that I would pursue. No,
Yeah. I'm
no.
learning a little bit about ghost hunting just this year, because frankly, and for me, ghosts find me. I don't need to go hunt for them.
Right,
They're just part
exactly.
of my normal life experience. Um, and I genuinely, I see them, I hear them, but to go somewhere and intentionally look for them is something that I haven't done until this year, and it's different. It's really different, and you got to be patient and calm and just kind of be a little long suffering to wait until, if they're even there, if they want to talk to you or not. Um, I'm just fortunate because I attract them, so they're comfortable around me. They know that I can hear them and see them, and they usually have something they want to share. They just want to be heard like everybody else. They just want to be understood. They want to share whatever it is that's important on their mind at the time. I know that sounds funny because they don't technically have a mind, but their thoughts, as it were. Yeah. So I love that idea, and I think it's great that they're using the ship for more than one thing, and it only makes sense. Something that was used in wartime at all, people die for all kinds of reasons. It doesn't have to be a warship, but it's been in service a long time, so it would make sense that somebody would have died on it at some point.
Well, yeah, one of the most interesting stories was from actually one of the guides.
Oh
They're
yeah.
a docent on the ship. They're volunteer.
Mm-hmm.
They're there, day in and day out. They preserve the ship. They give tours.
Right.
They're not staff. They're, docents. They're volunteers.
Gotcha.
And he was relaying a story which happened to him. We were in the forecastle area of the aircraft carrier.
Okay.
And for people not familiar with naval terms, that is the very front bow of the ship,
Okay.
which at one point was open to the elements or whatever,
Okay.
and guns were placed up there
Oh.
so that they could fire forward.
Oh
You see
wow.
a lot of warships where they have the cannons and stuff that face sideways,
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
or aircraft carriers they face up. But
Okay.
these were placed on the bow of the boat so that they could shoot straight ahead,
Hmm.
and it was called the forecastle area. Which, interestingly enough, in the '60s, I guess they ran into a typhoon and it wrecked 21 feet of the flight deck,
Oh wow.
hitting a wave. And then after they repaired the flight deck, they enclosed that forecastle area so that it wouldn't, have that open area underneath the flight deck.
Wow.
And so this docent guide, tour guide, his experience is that he was climbing from the forecastle area to a catwalk area above,
Okay.
up a ladder, up to like a metal walkway, catwalk type area up there.
Okay.
And he was like, felt like he was being strangled. He lost his breath.
Yikes.
He couldn't breathe. Just as he was getting to the top area of the
Right.
catwalk. And it was like his lungs had completely shut down, and he couldn't get anything in, couldn't get
Oh,
anything out.
scary.
He had, felt it like a tightening around his neck,
Right.
like he had a tight tie on or something. And so he scurrily hurried back down, and he kind of, caught his breath and stuff, and hyperventilated, and kind of, got all his faculties back together. And he was telling one of the other older guys who was on the ship, one of the old crusty sailors,
Mm-hmm.
and that where he was and what he was doing and where this happened and what had happened. And the guy said, "Well," he says, "not for nothing, but back in Vietnam," he said there was a sailor who had gotten a Dear John letter, and he hung himself from that upper catwalk area right
Oh,
there. And
sad.
so he said, you know, that may have been why he felt the tightening on
Oh,
his throat and
sure.
he couldn't breathe.
Right.
He was re-experiencing what that sailor had experienced when
Yep.
he took his life. So that was an interesting story.
Yeah, it's interesting that you share that because I know this is something people don't. I'm just going to toss in this nugget. For people that don't understand what a medium does, a medium is somebody that picks up on things that happen with dead people. And one of the things that most people are not aware of is that if somebody died from a heart attack, you feel it. If somebody died choking, you feel that. You might actually choke. If you lost got something amputated. I mean, one of the worst pains I ever had was from a Vietnam veteran that had his arm amputated. And it was the first time I'd felt anything like that. It was back in the 80s in Nevada. And I was doing a reading for a friend that was a vet, and he really wanted to get in touch with this one guy that had passed. He just felt like he didn't really get to say goodbye to him. And that was really strange. I mean, I will never forget that because I never felt such pain in my arm in my life. It was very weird. But that's not something most people do. When you access a memory or someone else's experience, you don't normally feel, like you were saying, being empathic. It's part of that experience is whatever they're just showing you how they died. They're just showing you a significant event in their life. It's for a split second. And if you're not careful, you can have a panic attack or something else can happen. So it takes some practice to get used to it because it's like, oh, I'm having trouble breathing. So they died from something in their lungs, or, oh, my chest is hurting. So they had something going on with their heart, or your back. It's just weird. It's an interesting sidebar I got to mention because people don't
Well, I
realize.
think that's what the guy that I mentioned, Ryan. I think the young
Yeah.
man who's dealing with his mediumship is having difficulties with
Yeah.
is things exactly like what you're talking about. I think those
Yeah.
are things that he's kind of wrestling with now.
Yeah. It's strange. It's very strange to get used to. But as long as you know what it is, then it's not so scary because they're just demonstrating what happened, and then you're like, oh, that's what it is. It's all stuff that you learn as you go through there. But yeah, that's amazing. And I'm glad that they shared that stuff with you guys because it gives credence to why you're there doing a paranormal hunt to begin with. That yes, there's ghost activity, but it's also nice just to have, like you had with your other stories, a shared experience, having other people that went through something, and then you go, oh, okay. I mean, someone else heard, someone else saw. It's great to be able to share that stuff. Definitely.
Exactly, exactly. Yeah, it's just shared knowledge. I found my notes here, and I wanted to run through some of this stuff so that any of your audience, if they wanted to, look some of this stuff up from
Okay.
these speakers that we had. So Sean Austin, it's on Netflix. It's a show called 28 Days Haunted.
Okay.
And he's also been on the Amityville House and the Demon Files. He's a
Okay.
medium and a guitar player and a songwriter. And the song that he wrote that you would look up on, say, YouTube or whatever, that he was inspired by this spirit that he was dealing with on 28 Days Haunted, was called Adeline and Her Captain.
Okay.
And so that was the song that he had wrote based upon this spirit.
Wow.
He is a vision of a young brunette girl that he had contact with for literally 28 days
Oh,
while
wow.
he was in the house. And Daryl Marsden, he was one of the ghost hunters, which was, I guess, on TV.
Mm-hmm.
He's an author, and he wrote a book that was out just released in August called Horrors of the House of Wills, was the book that he wrote.
Mm-hmm.
And it was about his experience in the Wills house investigation in Cleveland, Ohio, which was a former funeral home
Oh, wow.
uh, and a social club in the 20s, and in the 40s it was turned back into a funeral home. And the Wills family had like a lot of stuff. So that's the book. It's called House of Wills. House Wills, Wills. I
Oh,
don't know if
okay.
I'm pronouncing it right.
Okay.
So House of
All
Wills,
right.
uh, Horrors of the House of Wills.
Okay.
Um, so that was some of his stuff. And like I said, Dr. Auerbach is got many, many books. You won't have any issues, finding any of his stuff. So I just wanted to get that out there for
Okay.
anybody that
Thank
wants to do
you.
their own homework or investigation. At least point you guys in the right
That
direction.
sounds great.
And I just want to say, if you have ever wanted to go on a ghost hunt and you have a curiosity about it, this is a good one to go on. But like I said, it's fairly benign as far as worrying about getting possessed or dragging something home.
Right.
You don't have to worry about any of that stuff. Number two, it's in the San Francisco Bay Area, and there's lots of stuff to do out here. On top of that, uh, so add it to your vacation list or whatever. Number three, it's what I consider a damn good bargain to do the whole overnight thing, because
I
you're
think
going to
so
get two
too.
meals,
Yeah.
you're going to get lodging for the night, and surprisingly, I do want to mention this. I'm looking at these three racks that we had for our bed for the night, and I'm looking at those and I'm like, man, those don't look that great. That don't look that comfortable. I'm a big guy. I'm over 6 foot tall. I'm over 300 pounds, and I'm going. I don't know how much sleep I'm going to get based upon the comfort level of this bunk I got. They had one stipulation. They didn't want you on the top rack. Well, for my fat butt, that was not going to be a problem. I'm not
Yeah.
crawling all the way up there.
Right. Right.
But they didn't want anybody on the top row, because if you sat up in the middle of the night, you'd hit your head on the ceiling, which is
Yeah.
steel plate. So they didn't want that. So you had to be either in the lower one, which is almost on the floor level.
Right.
So there was no way I'm going to crawl my fat butt down onto the floor
Right.
and have
Right.
getting up. So I'm stuck in the medium, which basically came up to my belly.
Right.
And so I got into the bunk by basically just kind of laying over at my belt level and swinging my legs up and then rolling over. And surprisingly, that was a good technique. And surprisingly, the mattresses were quite comfortable.
I'm
And
shocked.
also surprisingly, I wasn't cramped with in a fetal position because it was so short. I could
That's
actually lay.
amazing.
Yeah, it was because I'm a belly sleeper, so I like to either sleep on my side or sleep on my belly and hug my pillow
Right.
when I sleep, which tends to make my 6 foot over frame even
Right.
longer.
Yes, it stretches
And
you
I
out.
was able to actually do that without jamming my feet up on the railings. So I was quite surprised, quite comfortable,
Nice.
and yeah, that was a great surprise. And then getting out was a matter of I just kind of grabbed the rail of the bunk above me and kind of slid my legs over the edge and kind of slid down my butt until my feet hit the floor. So
Nice.
it was maybe not that graceful looking, but it was effective. And yeah, it was surprisingly comfortable rack.
Nice.
So if you tend to go overnight,
I still
so I
think
would
it's a
highly
great
recommend
idea.
it.
Yeah.
Make sure you're physically fit enough to walk several miles.
Right.
Make sure your knees and back are in good enough shape to climb ladders, because you'll be doing it
Mhm.
several times during the night,
I
up and
bet.
down, up and down.
I bet.
Um, but as long as you're a go on all those things, highly recommend it.
Well, that sounds awesome. Well, thank you, Jay, for
Yeah.
sharing all this with us. I'm glad that you went and did this because I certainly couldn't do it, but it does sound like a lot of fun. I think the conference itself was interesting. I mean, that would have been fun to sit through a class and listen to all that. That would have been amazing. But you never know with a ghost tour if you're going to find anything. It doesn't matter where you go. Ghost hunting is not an exact science. Sometimes you get nothing. Sometimes you get a bunch. Sometimes you get a little. You just never know. It's always a crapshoot. But
Yeah, and like I
yeah,
say, I don't have access to the evidence that the other groups got. I
sure.
mean, there were 6 or 7 other groups. They claimed that they had captured some great stuff.
Did they?
My
Nice.
experience of my group, not so much. Um, but like I said, I'm a history buff. I'm kind of a historian. I like the stories. I like the World War II stuff.
Right.
And like I said, a small bucket list thing. Well worth it. I was there just for the knowledge.
Sure.
Half of the people that were there for the classroom stuff,
Oh yeah.
left and didn't participate in the ghost hunt.
Oh
They were just
really?
there for the conference.
Oh wow.
Absolutely, they were there just to take notes. They were there to meet the co-hosts. They were there for information. And once that was over, they left. And that was about half of the people.
Huh.
Only about the other half actually stayed for the hunt. So
Interesting.
yeah, they were just there for the knowledge.
Wow. Well, it
So.
definitely sounds like it was worth it. I'm glad that you shared this with us today, and I appreciate you taking the time to do this visit with
Oh,
us and
absolutely.
share all
Enjoyed it
this.
thoroughly.
Yeah. Well, thank you,
And
Jay.
yeah, so if you enjoy Holly's show, and if you enjoy the content that we're bringing to you, please subscribe and mash that like button, and help us out as far as you know making sure that we can get Holly's program here out to y'all and bring stuff to you. So
Absolutely.
I
Absolutely.
just want to pass that on as well.
And
Mash that like
I
button.
appreciate that. And really quick, I'm just going to share that there is another event coming to the Hillsborough Event Center, and it's going to be a fireside bazaar hosted again by Pagan Fire on February 24th. I will be there. And I'm also going to be at the Oregon Ghost Conference in Seaside, Oregon in March. And I believe it's usually the third week in March that the Oregon Ghost Conference is at. So like I think the 24th, 25th, and 26th, something like that. Don't quote me on that. I'll double check. But yeah, I'm going to be at those two events live if you want to come by and say hi. And if you got stories to share, at the end of this, you will hear places that you could reach me, contact me, and let me know what you think and share your stories. Thanks again for listening. We appreciate you watching. This is Holly saying goodbye. And Jay, thanks for your time, guys.
My pleasure.
Thank you for listening to Holly's Pandorium. If you have stories to share, you can find me on hollyspandorium.com, Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. You can also listen on Spotify and our wonderful Metal Cross Radio at radioking.com. Thanks again for listening.